Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. In case you haven't heard, in the state of Illinois today, they are starting their assault weapons registration. Starting today, you can register your assault weapons, and you have until January 1st of 2024 to get them registered. Now, they say this is not for confiscation, that this list won't be used for that it's for other reasons, like to help prevent crimes and help solve crimes, which is total bunk. The only reason lists like this exist is so you know who the enemy is and you know whose door to knock on when you want to go seize the tools they might use to fight back against a fascist government, a rogue government. That's the only reason these exist. And I can say that pretty clearly and pretty confidently because there's no other reason for them to exist. First off, as far as stopping crimes, the things they call assault weapons, which is basically any semi-automatic rifle, they're used in such a tiny percentage of crimes. Most gun crimes are handguns. So if they were worried about crime, wouldn't you register handguns? Not long guns? They're not interested in crime. They're interested in taking away any tool that might be effective in fighting back against a tyrannical government. That's what they want. They want the rifles out of your hands. They don't want you to be armed enough that you could form a militia or anything like that. They want you to just have a little handgun. And they don't even want you to have that. But they're more worried that you have rifles. Because rifles can equal soldiers against their rule. So they want to know who has them. So in case things get bad, they know whose doors to go to and take them. Because that whole argument about stopping crime or helping solve crimes doesn't make any sense. Like I said, first off, most of them are done with handguns. And most of the crimes that are committed with a long gun, mass shootings, etc., those, we know who did it. They usually died doing it. So there's no crime to solve other than to figure out their motive. So it's all garbage. Plus, if anyone was going to actually commit a crime with a long gun, they wouldn't register it. They'd just be like, screw the law. If you're willing to murder, surely you're willing to violate this law. Also, most people who would do it would just steal a gun and do it. So it doesn't make sense that it would stop crime. Like I said, long guns used in a tiny percentage of crimes. Most of the time when they are used in heinous crimes, the crime is already solved before the police get there. So this is not about stopping crime or solving crimes. It's about, like I said, knowing who are the potential enemies and knowing whose doors to knock on when it's time to go take those firearms away from them. This is a first step to confiscation, plain and simple. That's the only reason registrations exist. They don't stop crimes. Because here's a little secret for you. Even if your handgun is registered and you go shoot somebody, they don't know whose gun shot that person unless the gun's on the scene, which is not very often. So that's all garbage. It's not like in the movies where they're like, oh, this bullet was fired from a Smith & Wesson M&P, a 40 caliber with a 3-inch barrel. We need to go find out who sold these over the last month and who bought them and who, of all the people who bought them, who was in, the area that day. That crap. That's crap. You can't tell any of that from a bullet. That's make-believe. So these registrations are purely for confiscation. And with that in mind, I want to do this video because someone asked me, hey, what should I do? Should I register my assault weapons? I'm going to go out on a limb here and tell people, no, do not comply. For a couple of different reasons. One, I wouldn't comply with it, period. If we had a registration here in Washington that said tomorrow I have to register all my long guns, I'm not going to do it. And if they want to come get them, come get them. If they want to come get me. I'll fight you in court. I'll gladly be the test case for that. That would be standing. I'd actually have a reason to sue the state. So I would welcome that. So I would not comply. So if you live in the state of Illinois, I would not comply. It's like, they love to talk about these things like Australia did this and look what it did for their crime rates, etc. The only thing they don't tell you is only about 13% of Australians complied. The vast majority never complied. So all the guns are still out there. They're just not being used in crimes because they usually aren't. And that's the same thing with these registrations here. It's not going to stop any crimes, and even probably most people won't comply. But the ones that do comply, they'll know who to go for and go after when they want to take away the weapons from people. So I say, do not comply. If you're someone who is like, oh, I don't want to buck the system, I want to obey the law, I'm a good citizen, which most gun owners are, and you just don't have it in you to be the test case or to be the rebel, I still say do not comply until January 1st, 2024. If you are going to comply, which I say don't, if you're going to, wait till the last day you have to, and then flood them with them. Collapse the fucking government scheme. Because of all the registration. What are they going to do? Come get you? You turned it in by the 1st. If they can't process it, that's on them. So don't comply now, of course, period. Don't comply until you absolutely have to, and then even then, don't comply. I say, it's like the same thing I say with NFA stuff. If you're questionable about whether your gun's compliant, shut up. It's the best thing you can do. If you've got long guns, semi-automatic rifles, assault weapons, and you're like, oh, should I register these? What if I don't register them? Don't worry about it. Just don't register them. What are they going to do? Come get us? They don't want to do that. They're counting on all of us being legal, law-abiding citizens and registering. Because they know most gun owners are legal, law-abiding people. And they'll comply. They won't even think anything of it. They'll be like, I got nothing to worry about. I haven't committed any crimes. Well, until you commit the thought crime of not agreeing with something your government says, and they know you're not going to agree, so they come and take your property because they got this nice little registry that you complied with. So it's all a scheme, like I said, towards confiscation. There's a reason there's a federal law against the government keeping a list of firearms, a database, because they know it only leads to confiscation. And the states that do this, there's always been trouble states. I know the Illinois Supreme Court upheld this. I have a feeling it's going to be overturned. That's another reason why I say don't register before January 1st. Even if you're going to, don't before the 1st, because it probably won't be a law by then. And if you've registered already, they still have that information. You trust them to get rid of it when the law is declared unconstitutional? I don't. I think they're hoping that, we'll go draw this out as long as we can, and maybe in December, the law will be struck down, but 85% of the people will have already complied. So we'll know who has what. Even though they know the law is probably going to be unconstitutional. It got upheld by one vote inside the state, and we knew it would. Like I tell people all the time, if you're someone who actually fights the fight for gun rights, you know you're going to lose inside your anti-gun state. There are some states that have always been a problem and will always be a problem, and Illinois is one of them. California, Illinois, New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, and nowadays Oregon and Washington. You're not going to win inside the state. You have to get outside the state. And when that law goes outside the state to be heard on appeal, I do believe it will get overturned. Even if it has to go all the way to Supreme Court, it will get overturned. Maybe I'm optimistic, or maybe I just believe in the law and the Constitution. So as of right now, do not comply. Even if you fully intend to comply, don't do it till the last second, because like I said, the law may not exist by then. And if you're someone who is freedom-minded and is like, have them come get me, I'll be the test case. If you're someone who actually believes you could do that, don't comply at all, even if it goes into effect on January 1st. What are they going to do? Come get everybody? That would show what their intentions are. So this law is ridiculous. It has nothing to do with crime or safety. It has to do with, like I said, the government knowing who the potential problems are and knowing whose door to knock on when they want to take those problems out of society, or at least their means to become a problem for them and their rule. So do not comply, period. And if you are going to comply, wait till the last second, because I don't think anyone's going to have to. But even if you have to, if you want to take my advice, do not comply.